when we are in government on the 23rd of September.
I call Ria Bond.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I'm proud to rise on behalf of New Zealand First and actually on behalf of my colleague Fletcher Tapato to speak to the third reading of the Anti-Dumping and Countervailing Duties Amendment Bill. Mr Speaker, in the bill's first reading, New Zealand First, we made it clear that we'd only support this legislation to the select committee process. And that's because New Zealand First had major concerns about how this bill, put up by that national government, would ultimately, in the end, make New Zealand made products vulnerable to unfair predatory pricing by international companies. This bill will affect innovation of small businesses, Kiwi businesses, Mr Speaker, which actually have to compete around the world globally. And this is no easy platform for our Kiwi businesses. And what this government has done through this legislation is add another hurdle in the mix that will cause more risk, more uncertainty, not only to our small businesses in New Zealand, will they suffer by this, but so will our manufacturing and export sector. Let's talk about the public interest test, or as the Minister Jackie Dean said last night, the consumer interest clause. Now, I want you to listen up. I want you to listen up, National, and the backbenchers today. And I want you to listen carefully, Mr Bishop. The public interest test is the most damaging clause inside this legislation. And if government members had bothered to understand this, Mr Bishop, and actually listen and do some homework yourself, then you would have actually known by your research that this actual clause, and it's as clear as crystal, gives foreign companies and governments that are considering dumping into the New Zealand market a green light. Because the protection that should be there to protect our New Zealand market, that would have had the ability to kick-start a protection mechanism to alert foreign companies and governments considering dumping, that it's simply not there. It's not there in this bill. Ultimately, sanctions against this are actually weakened. These are the reasons New Zealand First supported this bill to the select committee process, Mr Speaker. And the reason why so members of this side of the House, members on the government side of the House could actually hear the submitters, hear their voices, hear how this bill will affect the market that this bill has presumably is meant to protect. Mr Speaker, what was overwhelmingly obvious was from the submitters, and I'm talking about, as other members have also said in this House today, Horticulture New Zealand, New Zealand Business, New Zealand Steel, foodstuffs and many more. What we heard ultimately was that this bill would be no good for them. At that stage, and other members have also said that the Select Committee, we did work really hard on this bill. We looked through all avenues and looked at the risk. We sought the advice of advisors, and the bill was returned back to this House with no changes. Now, at that point, it should have indicated to the Minister that there's a real issue here. There should have been an indication. The Minister should have pulled this bill, as other members have already said in this House, and taken it back, had a look at it, and actually given it careful consideration as to the unlimitedness risk that this bill would put through this New Zealand market. Did that happen, Mr Speaker? No, it didn't. It didn't happen at all. And the government keep pushing through this bill. And what this bill will do, and I'm going to repeat myself, I'm sorry, but it will tilt the level playing field of dumped or subsidised imports rather than support local producers and local jobs. The submitters category told us, Mr Speaker, that this bill was bad for them, bad for New Zealand. The public interest test was an absolute risk that the government actually even had it there, that they wondered why, and other speakers have said it already, that the Australian government tried twice to have a similar type of regime as this, and both times they listened to their businesses, they listened to the people that actually help import and export into our country. They listened to the risk, the small business owners of New Zealanders, to the Kiwi owners, to people that we know in this country, and they said, no deal here, and they flicked it off. What we wanted to know, and what we heard throughout the calls in this House, is why is the government still supporting this? Why is the government members still supporting this bill? Still supporting the public interest test, which is almost like a bit of a cannonball that's going to come right through our market and shatter it over time, Mr. Speaker. Now, on this side of the House, the opposition did put forward a minority report, and what we did was we outlined the absolute risk involved inside of that bill, Mr. Speaker. And we took a look, and actually, it couldn't have been any plainer, it couldn't have been any more crystal clear why this bill was not good for this country, why this bill should have been taken away, taken back, and actually amended significantly to put the best interests of New Zealand first, and that has not happened, Mr. Speaker. Now, I also want to say that the Minister produced a supplementary order paper yesterday, and I went through that supplementary order paper, and I was absolutely astounded that this supplementary order paper only made that bill worse. It only made that bill worse. And I sat there and thought, what is this government doing? What are you doing to your businesses here in New Zealand? And I thought, this is absolutely crazy. And I kind of sat here and thought, I know automatically that this bill and the supplementary order paper will actually take New Zealand businesses backwards. It'd take them backwards, not forwards. Someone with half a brain would have known that straight away. New Zealand businesses are unnecessarily and radically, through the supplementary order paper, without principle, materially weakened the anti-dumping regime, and it's absolutely weakened it. It's a move away from the WTO rule and will cause significant risks to all business closures and jobs. I want to touch on other members that actually mentioned throughout the time of this passage of the bill through the House. And one of the members, Dr. David Clark, summed it up nicely last night, and he said, this bill is tragic. The solution undermines the New Zealand domestic producers. It undermines New Zealand businesses and its competitiveness. And I sat there, and he also said it also moves away from the WTO guidelines. And that's why I was astounded, and New Zealand First was absolutely astounded when we saw that supplementary order paper, Mr. Speaker. And now other members also said, and I think from memory, and we've all mentioned about the fact that New Zealand, the Australian government had the good sense to realise how bad the public interest test was, and they got rid of it because they didn't want to create uncertainty in their market or a crippling effect on the New Zealand market in terms of anti-trade and countervailing, Mr. Speaker. And I have to say, and we say on the side of the House, that the National cannot deny that there will be pressure put on them, that there will be all sorts of threats from around the world, and that flack will actually happen because, as Mr. Parker alluded to earlier, outlined, we've seen evidence of it here already in New Zealand in recent New Zealand history. Mr. Speaker, I've got about 2 minutes left, and I want to actually talk about the fact that the general feeling about this bill from the time that it was come through the House in the first reading, the Select Committee process, the second reading, and the Committee of the whole House last night, New Zealand First has not shifted its position. This is an absolutely appalling bill to this New Zealand country that has been put forward by this government. This bill will actually create an absolute uncertainty throughout our market. It will not support local New Zealand businesses, and it will not support local people who need jobs in this country. It will actually cause mass job losses. Mr. Speaker, New Zealand First absolutely does not support this bill.
I call Kanwal Bakshi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.